right, so number seven, interview questions to ask. When you sit down with a grant professional or Zoom with a grant professional, here's some things that you might want to ask uh, when you're with them. How do you approach grant research and prioritize the grant opportunities that you're finding? Um, this is important for you to listen to how they might they could probably pretty quickly assess. I don't know about all grant professionals, but I'm assuming everybody kind of does this the same way. Before I meet with a client, I do read quite a bit about them on their website, and I do a little bit of digging here and there to see what kind of funding they've gotten before. And I do some research about them, so I can pretty easily answer that question about how I would approach, at least initially doing grant research for them, like grant opportunities prospecting for them, and give kind of a basic strategy of how I pick those grants out for them. Um, what information do you need from our team to be successful? This is a great question to ask for any grant professional, because on my side, that already means that you're understanding that this is a team sport. This is not just the grant writer. You're gonna say, yeah, go write grants, and I'm going to pull a check out of my drawer and give it to you. This individual who asked this question knows already that I'm going to be asking a lot from their team. We're going to work together, and we're going to get a successful proposal out the door. And they should be able to easily give you basic information of things that they need, or I go to a meeting with a grant readiness checklist. And so, I'm pretty ready for that question. Uh, how do you ensure ethical compliance in grant work? So this is a really good question just to see if they've even thought about ethical. I mean, obviously, that's what you want first and foremost. I think knowing that they're not going to let the grant writer, which is interesting, when the grant professional is outside of the organization, it becomes kind of um, a good lens to see your own organization through. And so they can easily kind of spot things that don't look quite right, or maybe, your system isn't quite as ethical as it could be, maybe just based on very little staff. Is there more than one person touching checks that are coming in? You want multiple sets of eyeballs, on those fundraising checks coming in, and things like that. And that's a struggle sometimes for small organizations, but we talk about things like that. We'll say, hey, well, why don't you maybe we could do it this way so that the treasurer of the board is seeing it, the executive director is seeing it, and then the secretary of the organization or the administrator of the organization is also seeing it. So there's three sets of eyes on that funding that's coming through. That's an important um, tip. And usually it's not because the organization's trying to be unethical in their practices. They just didn't have the manpower and didn't really notice that that wasn't happening. So it's not like they're being devious and I'm pointing out something, horrible. It's just like, hey, have you thought about this? This is best practice. Um, it keeps everybody safe as well in that organization. So, how do you measure success beyond awards received? So this you want to ask this question because a lot of times, again, on the grant professional side, I would think, okay, great, this person is understanding that this is a process more than just getting a check in the bank. Funders are not ATMs. They don't want to be ATMs. They want to be partners with your organization. And so when we get declined for a grant, but they said, this is a good fit for our organization. Please apply again. That's a success. That's good. Okay, we've got the right funder. If we haven't applied to that funder before, and that was the first time, they want us to apply again. That's a good fit. That's a win. That's a partial win. It's not an award. We like those the best. But you can see the step forward with that funder now. Like there's that relation step that has been formed. Um, so there's different ways that grant writers see success. Um, I always tell organizations, especially if they've never written grants and we've gotten them to the point where they are ready to write grants, it's going to take a year or two or three to really see kind of that established funder partnership. And it's really neat to watch because you can kind of watch that grow. You can watch those organizations ask for more money as the years go by. So that's kind of a neat win as well when you see that. I perceive success in organizational structure. Like if you've kind of started with no good structure in place and you've become, you've got systems now, you understand what you're evaluating, why you're evaluating things, why is that important even, and you understand that. And I see a lot of that kind of structure getting put in place as success. Because that's just making you a stronger and stronger organization, which then is going to be more appealing to funders in the future. So, another interview question you might ask a grant professional is how do you handle rejections and feedback? I actually have never, though I have a feeling I have met fairly spectacular grant professionals, but um, I've never met a grant professional that can't handle rejections or feedback. That's just a part of what we do. I mean, if you can't handle rejections in this field, you are in the wrong game. It's the wrong game because we are constantly assessing feedback letters. When we get decline, we're really picking those apart to see what kind of little nuggets of information we can get out of there. And that really determines like, are we asking them for funding again in their next cycle? Do they reach out? Depending on the organization, I will reach out to those organizations, say, hey, we got declined, but we would like to apply again in your next cycle. Is that allowed? Or, we would like to apply again next year. Do you have any feedback on the application? Was there anything missing? There could have been something that they're really looking for that wasn't necessarily like highlighted in their instructions, but that was what that review board was looking for. Um, you know, Feedback is kind of how we grow. So I can't even imagine a grant professional answering this question negatively. But anyway, uh, make sure they can handle rejection. You also have to be able to understand that this is kind of a long game kind of thing, and you're going to get declined for grant. It's highly competitive. You keep learning. You keep kind of maturing those applications that go in and figuring out why are these not successful? Why are we not being successful? If it's just kind of an unsuccessful endeavor, it's time to step back at some point and say, okay, why have those five out of those five, nothing got funded? Why is that? Is there something we missed? So it's really important to take that feedback in and really run with it. Um, Interview questions to ask. Our last one here. Who owns the grant content and data after the contract ends? This is a great question. Almost nobody asks this question when I meet with them, and I always tell them, but nobody asks it. But that's a good question to ask. I don't know for all grant professionals, but for me personally, the organization owns all of the content. So anything I write for them or, amass data for them or things like that, they own all of that. I, yeah, they can use any of that writing in you know, any of their media. So but that's a great question to ask.